Okay guys, so the next phase of the processing of histological specimens, and that's not processing them, but you know what I mean, preparing them for histology, is this phase. And what you're seeing is a medical laboratory scientist sitting at the embedding station. So that's what this is. Let me just get this. Okay, so this is a embedding. We can make it thicker and that out. So this is an embedding station. Okay, there's some important components to this apparatus. Some very important components. We'll start here with the paraffin or molten wax dispenser. So that little nozzle over there is the molten wax dispenser. So you would dispense your wax from there by depressing this button, and all of this, I'm going to draw a zigzag kind of line along here. All of this cream colored surface, that is all heated at about 61 degrees Celsius. So it's what we call our hot plate. Okay. Now, a accomplished embedder, a medical laboratory scientist that knows what they're doing after many years of practice, they will retrieve the tissue from the tissue processor after completion. It's gone through all the reagents, it's reached the molten wax, it's done, it's been an overnight processing schedule, right? And then they bring it to the tissue embedding station the next morning. The station has two temperatures. This is around about, this little square that you're seeing over here is all cold, and it's at about -4 degrees Celsius. So it's what we call the small, this is the small chiller plate. There is a larger chiller plate to the side. Let me show. So this is the large chiller plate. It's much bigger. You can see it can take an extensive amount of blocks. So this is, the whole area is ice cold, -4 degrees Celsius, large chiller. And what it will do is, you'll keep your blocks. So you can see a little bit of overflow of the wax. It's perfectly normal. And you'll keep your blocks on here until they've solidified within, it takes about 2 to 5 minutes, if that. And this is being done in the mornings. Okay, I'm going to do a quick rundown on the procedure. Okay, so I don't want you to stress and say, okay, well, you know, Dr. Wickens raced through this. I have no clue how to embed. You're not supposed to know how to embed. You're just supposed to have this idea. First and foremost, very important, is the positioning of your body at the embedding station. So this MLS is ergonomic. They say that the word is ergonomically positioned, which means basically that they are comfortable. Ergonomic. So hands are relaxed, body is at a seated position, comfortably positioned from the distance from there to there is a comfortable distance, that there's not excessive movement of the joints, shoulders, elbows, and particularly the wrists. Okay, you don't want to strain. Now, the first thing you do is you take your cassette and you place it here on this chiller, and let's just use numbers. I'm going to change the color back to red, and I want to make it a bit thicker. So the first thing is to put it here, because you're going to, you've already had it at 65 degrees or so. Remember, in the tissue processor, you put the molten wax. It's, if I haven't said it, it's about 60, 61, 62 degrees, 65. And you open the cassette, and over here, if you look, this form is the histology work form from the tissue cut-up or anatomical dissection. You open the cassette, you inspect the tissue surface area, you look at the specimen, does it match up with the details on the form, and then you choose a base mold over here. Number 2. Do you see these different molds? They're stainless steel, there's some over here, and you get small, medium, large, and sometimes in between sizes. This looks like a medium to me, M, that you selected for specimen. There's the specimen in the center. The key is to get your specimen directly in the center. So point number 3 is to place the base mold underneath this tap from which the molten wax will be dispensed, and to fill it with a small volume of molten wax. Then you take your specimen from your cassette that's warmed, put it in the center, change the color for our specimen, make it yellow, and put it in the center. Step number 1, 2, 3, 4 is the one that she's on at the moment. You see, she's placed the specimen in its base mold on the small chiller plate. Now, I didn't mention, I did mention, but I didn't write it, that this is the small -4, happens to be step 4. And the purpose here is just to fix, not fix as in fix the tissue from autolysis and putrefaction, but fix as in make it immovable, so it won't shift around to the base. What happens when you put wax, molten wax, on a cold surface? Have you ever melted wax and then dribbled it onto a surface that's cool? It goes white and it goes milky, and then solid, non-translucent, opaque. It goes solid. So that's what's going to happen there. It's going to fix it, and that's the purpose of this step 4. Then step 5 is to lift this up. So step 5, we're going to put it in the air here. You lift it up. Circle step 4. Step 5, you lift it up into the air, and you place your, I just want to change the color because this red is boring me, and you place the cover of the cassette with the same patient details. See that lab? Maybe that's the lab number there, I'm not sure. The cassette cover has the lab number written on it, right? So you just place that same cover, because you're sitting here embedding, you place that on top of your base mold, that cover. Do you see there's a number written there? You place it on top of your stainless steel cassette base mold that's in the air. You don't want to put it back on the heat now, because you've just frozen the bottom, right, and made it stick in place. You put it back on the heat, it's going to get loose and shift around. So step number 6 is to then pour some more wax on top and fill it completely. You push that button, X marks the spot, and you fill it up all the way to the top. And then step number 7 is to come over here, 7, and you place it on the large chiller for that specified time. So about 7 or 8 steps to tissue embedding. See, there's the numbers. They're the numbers you wrote on the blocks when you were doing the dissection or the cut-up or the anatomical dissection. Remember those numbers you wrote in pencil. So it all kind of fits together in a loop. That's tissue embedding. Let's just go back and show you another photograph from one of the laboratories in Port Elizabeth. So this is an embedding station here in PE, one of the laboratory's private labs. I want to thank the laboratory trainer, Etienne Ferreira, for giving us permission to use this photograph and the frame up. So what you're seeing is nothing different to what we've had before. From the other photograph, the same thing. You've got a computerized panel, and it controls the different heat settings. That's your panel, and you've got a hot drawer where, like a drawer where you put your cassettes in. Can you see how many they had this morning? I mean, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in that row. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 5, 75 cassettes that morning to embed. 75, okay. And then on this side, this is at about 61 degrees Celsius. And then on this side, another hot drawer. It can be covered. You pull that. Do you see this? That's the cover. And you can actually pull it this way and cover the whole thing and keep it at constant temperature. Temperature control is important, but we won't get into it. And then this surface, the stainless steel surface, is the hot panel. All of this. And he's ready to embed this cassette. It's, whoops, to be embedded. Okay. And it's also 61 degrees Celsius. Everything's been kept at that temperature. Then here is your molten paraffin wax tap over here, and so that's the paraffin wax tap, molten wax. And I forgot to mention in the other image, what's really cool they've got is she's holding here, this forceps is heated forceps. It's actually got a wire connected to it, and it plugs in, and that keeps it heated so that there's no buildup of wax on it. As soon as the forceps cools, then there's going to be a buildup. Now if you look here, only way that the buildup of wax is prevented is by placing the forceps here into these holes. These holes are heated at the 61 degrees Celsius. So as the molten wax builds up on the forceps, the medical laboratory scientist places them back in there, and they are then removed. The molten wax is removed. The problem with the buildup of wax is the fact that it will stick to the tissue, and that makes it really hard, difficult, challenging to embed the specimen. This is a chiller. It's your small chiller plate, and then off to the side would have been the large chiller plate. So this is embedding, and to embed all of these guys, it can take about 1.5 hours to 2 hours, and this is a light load. So this is a hot draw, and these are your base molds over here. Base molds, I should have done it in red because it's also heated. Okay, I hope this made sense, guys.